So I
Go.
believe we may have started. I don't know if our videos
Oh,
are live. Greetings, everyone. Let's maybe just start the session. Shannon, can you start off? Let me just check and ensure that we're all being heard. Maybe we should all just introduce ourselves real quickly. This is Dan Hanrahan with the Numina Group, and I'm joining, of course, Shannon and Shannon from the RateLinx team. Hope everyone can hear us. We just had a couple, difficulties with internet connections here for a second. We just want to check and ensure everybody can be heard. So, Shannon, could you introduce yourself just real quickly, and I'll check with our team and make sure that the sound is being broadcast correctly.
sure thing. Hi, I'm Shannon Corrigan. I'm the marketing director for RateLinx, and now we'll introduce the other Shannon.
So I'm Shannon Vaillancourt. I'm the president and founder here at RateLinx.
Okay. It says, like I said, we're in test mode right now. Just going to check with everybody, make sure sound's coming across
Oh, okay.
clearly through.
Yeah, thanks,
We'll talk in one
Charles.
second.
Looks like thanks for letting us know that you can hear us. Appreciate it. I just wanted to welcome everybody today to the Three Ways Unified WES and TMS. Automation can cut costs. Before we get started, just know that everyone's in listen only mode, and we'll go ahead and send you the webinar recording after the event, and we'll crop out all of the weight in the front end. So sorry about that. Let's dive into the latest innovations and strategies transforming warehouse execution and transportation management. We have a really great topic lined up for you. We're discussing how integrating the WES and TMS can really cut your costs and boost efficiencies. And we've already done the introductions of Dan Hanrahan from Numina Group and Shannon Vaillancourt from RateLinx. Shannon, can you just start by telling us a little bit about your industry experience and how ShipLynx TMS has become a Gartner top-rated TMS?
Sure. So I've been in the industry for a little over 30 years. I started back in the early 90s. I was an implementer, so I used to implement systems like ours. I was the one who went on site and integrated. And that's why when I created ShipLynx, I created it the way I did, knowing kind of what everyone needs and how we have to be able to deploy very quickly and be flexible.
Okay, thanks, Shannon. Dan, can you introduce yourself to the audience, and what market gap were you filling when you developed RDS Execution System?
Sure thing. So, just a little background, Numina Group. I'm sorry everybody doesn't get a chance to see my smiling face today. I'm always a happy character. But in any event, I'm the founder, CEO of the Numina Group. We really started out as a systems integration and custom software company going back 38 years now, actually going on our 39th year. So I've got a few years on you, Shannon, there, just a few. Our flagship software, our warehouse execution, warehouse control platform is called RDS, and it comes out of that warehouse control, material handling controls. And over the last 15 years, we've extended it to a full WES, WCS platform. And one of the areas that is right now today is essentially one of the fastest growing warehouse software platforms in the industry right now. We're seeing a big demand for it to fill that gap of integrating the latest generations of warehouse automation, bringing that together and integrating that technology to the customer's ERP WMS system. So extending the capabilities of existing software. And another really important component in that, if you want to say it's no longer a three-legged stool, it's a four-legged stool with the warehouse control, warehouse management, ERP, and transportation being a really critical component. And that's some of the things we'll be touching on today in the seminar.
Okay, thanks, Dan. As we're looking at ways to cut costs when we're unifying a WES and a TMS, can you first start by telling us how your WES automations drive the best results for your clients related to the efficiencies?
Yes, well, as a company, as a systems integration company, it's really important, we think, to take a data-driven approach to a process. So we like to step back and really do a design-first kind of philosophy. And we use the old stores, the standard principles really that come from perfect order practices. We try to look at the fact that you need to get within a distribution operation, delivery on time, ensuring that you're getting the right products, items, and quantities delivered within that order, delivered without loss or damage, and delivered in the right type of packaging with the correct documentation, and then closing that loop again, knowing that that product actually got delivered, reaching outside the four walls of the distribution center. So you have a complete integrated automated order flow process. That order flow process now can go out and extend directly to the customer's delivery, get that confirmation back. And that's really drives that, the major components of perfect order. And you can do that, you retain your customers, you grow your business. And we do that by developing the right type of software that marries and manages those processes together with different technologies across a distribution operation.
Okay, thanks, Dan. It sounds like the automations and efficiencies tee up the package right up until it gets out the door. Shannon, where does the TMS pick up the ball when it comes to automation?
Well, that's where, once it leaves, it has to know how it's going to leave. So that's where with the TMS side, it's going to pick the most optimal carrier based on all the rules that they have in place. And what's interesting is with the automation that you get from the WES, you actually can take that into account when you're picking the right carrier and service. We actually have had some customers in the past where, because of the automation they have inside the warehouse, they're actually more efficient with parcel than they would be with LTL. And because of that, they're able to, maybe pick a parcel carrier, even though it might be a little bit more expensive on the freight side than the LTL side, because they can take into account all of their handling costs that they have inside the warehouse. So that's where, by marrying these two up, you can really optimize and maximize the value of the automation that you're getting inside the warehouse, to make sure that you're not just looking at freight from a pure freight cost perspective, you're also taking into account what it takes to put things in the box and to get that box out the door. So that's where I think the TMS with the WES has really added a lot of value to some of our customers that we work together on.
Okay, thanks, Shannon. Dan, now that Shannon's talked about some of the efficiencies with the TMS, are there some other ways that your automations make the businesses more efficient through the automation?
Absolutely. We're really talking about the same subject together when Shannon is talking on his rate engine logic that is available up front in, looking at order profiles. That's really what RDS's first really key component is the order release logic, what we call new buzzword being used right now called orchestration layer. And that's an ability within RDS to accept orders from the ERP or WMS and really optimize the waves. And it does so by looking at, again, the order shipment types, advanced cartonization logic that can calculate very precisely how many cartons or what carton and which shipment method to ship the product from a poly bag all the way up to multi-carton orders. That's both for parcel and or repacks that could be going LTL. So our order release logic is looking at that and releasing orders across the warehouse and taking in now that component when we're connected with RateLinx of what is the most optimal way to ship that product, and then how does it flow through the warehouse can have a distinct difference based upon how it's shipping. For instance, a split case order could go through a pick bot, or it could go through a goods to person automation system where, pick to tote type process is happening where goods are being brought to the person in a goods to person system, or could integrate AMRs. It could be mixed case pick to pallet, for instance, for a large percentage of the order. And then split case orders could be picked in a parallel process and brought together and married up together. So it's the driving the automation, creating a continuous flow, and having all the right software components and selecting the right blend of automation technologies. There's just a multitude of traditional technology and new evolving technologies that are available today that we can bring together and drive that continuous flow throughout the warehouse from picking, packing, and shipping. All the components of order fulfillment kind of married together with now much more intelligent shipping decisions being made upfront in the order process to really drive savings across not only automation, but transportation costs.
Yeah, that unification of the WES and TMS, it seems like a really great synergy and magnifies the efficiency gains right down to delivering it to the customer. Shannon, what are some of the efficiency gains our clients see with ShipLynx TMS?
Really, it's allowing the TMS to work in concert with the WES. So all of those rules that they have inside the warehouse, we have to make sure that we blend, carrier selections, and we have all the carriers that they need in order to, deliver the freight and get it out the door. And I feel like that's the efficiency. So, as it's rolling through the WES, what's nice is there's nothing that the TMS can't handle. So if there's a particular mode of freight, a particular carrier, if there's certain documentation that's required, that's where the TMS is able to create that in concert with the WES. So that way you don't have to have, manual workstations to handle, certain exceptions that might have occurred if you can't automate on it. So I think that's where the ability for us to add those custom kind of rules through our extensibility really helps, I think, drive the real, efficiencies between the two systems. And I think that allows it to really work as one. And I think that's where our customers are able to really maximize the value of both of these systems working together. It's not like you're just getting one piece from the WES and then you're getting a separate piece and they kind of are pulling at each other. So that's what I've seen from our customers in the past.
Thanks, Shannon. I know that when I started in the supply chain industry, one of the things, concepts that was a little bit confusing to me that people sometimes use interchangeably is the difference between extensibility and scalability. Can you go a little bit more in depth about the differences between something being extensible and then something, a software solution being scalable?
Yeah, I mean, extensible is about extending the capabilities. So that's where the way our software is built, it is extensible. So we technically don't customize anything. So our standard product binaries, they are what they are. Every customer uses that exact same binary. It never changes. But we have the ability to extend its capabilities through the way we're architected. So that way we can easily add on to the standard product any type of rules or processes that a customer may need, and it doesn't preclude them from taking a version upgrade. Scalability is just the ability for the system to scale up. So I think of it like you're inflating a balloon. That's scalable. The more air you put in it, the bigger it gets, and then it'll scale down once the air comes out of it. So if you have volume rolling through peak seasons, that's more about scalability, scaling the system up to handle full volume. But you're not adding capabilities to it. You're just maximizing the throughput through it. So that's where I think the extensibility is misunderstood compared to scalability. Some people say that their system's scalable, it'll easily add these capabilities, and it's like, no, that's extensibility, and that's really what our system is.
Okay, yeah, yes, that's crystal clear to me, and I think the audience will be able to understand and really grasp the power of that. I know a lot of times our clients let us talk to us a little bit about the challenges that they're seeing, in their shipping operations. And one of their biggest barriers is that their carrier APIs, they have a lot of difficulty. Things aren't working with their shipping system. And then, especially when they're busy, it's a challenge. Can you talk about, how our carrier APIs and the consistency of it and how that helps shippers?
Well, I mean, anytime you're hitting any API, I don't care who it is, whether it's a carrier API or any other system API, you really have to, as they say, write resilient code is what we're always told. So all that means is you have to account for, things not working perfectly all the time. You have to have good error handling, good retry logic, things like that. You have to recover very gracefully and be able to just pick up where you left off. And I think that's where, the experience that we have of doing all this stuff for so many years, I would say we write very resilient code, which can mask some of the issues that really are happening out there. Because, not everything's 100%. We get that. And that's why we have to write the code the way we do. It doesn't matter, again, what API we're hooked to. That's just how we do things.
Okay, thanks, Shannon. It's great to have an efficient operation. It's great to get the packages out the door in an efficient way and utilizing all the automations. But we all know that when it comes down to making business decisions and investments in any type of technology, that there has to be a return on investment. Dan, can you share how businesses can see significant ROI and returns with your warehouse execution system?
Yes, absolutely. Well, the number one area, as we talked about earlier, we like to start by looking at the consistent processes that are currently in place at the DC, flow charting them, understanding labor spent across the entire warehouse from order release, if they're doing that manually with paper right now, or if there's people involved in that process, how much labor and efficiency can the upfront order release optimization that we have in RDS add value to their operation. And we take that step through each of the different processes, the picking processes, the packing processes, the shipping processes, where we're trying to lean up all of those processes. We flow chart those out. We take basically a journey with the customer saying, here's your before, here's your after processes. Then we go to work at looking at the automation components within RDS, such as our pick by voice module. We look to see what type of value would that do in reducing labor and touches, adding scan validation, accuracy to the process of order picking in certain areas. Then we'll look at other technologies, compare and contrast a traditional pick module to a goods to person system, or the use of AMRs versus that, or a blend of 2 or 3 of those technologies within a distribution center. So we have this parallel process flow, continuous order release, order completion, measurable parameters of both the people and the technology working together. That's throughout the picking, packing, and shipping process. And once we can do that, we can usually look at, here's your before, here's what we're obtaining at current customers with similar type processes. We have hundreds of systems out in the field. I believe we have 250 different, active customers that some of them have 4 or 5 different distribution centers within their supply chain that we're managing with RDS today. So we've got a lot of great data, historical information that we can use to compare and contrast where you are today with your process and what automation will do to improve productivity across the operations. I don't think we've done a system that doesn't generate 30 to 40%. 30% is really a low parameter of what we're able to obtain with a combination leaning up the process and applying the right automation technology. So again, that's the journey we go on with the customer, selecting and analyzing together and using a data-driven approach that says, this is the results that we're able to do. And we do that, we're usually able to show a customer in a new investment or a brownfield facility upgrade, a really positive cash flow. If you look at the cost of money and financing, you look at our warehouse automation, typically, we're generating 20 to sometimes $100,000 at certain installations and activities where we have put in that amount of that the automation generates that amount of positive cash flow. So 30 to 100% sometimes within distribution centers with the right blend of automation. And now you can even, increase that more by implementing, upfront the rate shopping analytics engine available with RateLinx. So we could go into every piece of technology. We're very modular. We have a full family, but I think it's really the essence of, look at the design and then make sure you're matching the right technology to each improved process that magnifies the performance of those processes and enforces the processes with the right technology. So you want better processes, right technology that really enforce and magnify better throughput across the entire order fulfillment operation.
Wow, those are some incredible savings. Seems like a no-brainer for any warehouse to at least explore the opportunity to, have a minimum of a 30% cost savings. So now that we've got everything ready to go out the door, Shannon, can you share a little bit about how ShipLynx TMS helps clients get a positive ROI and how quickly they can achieve that return on investment of ShipLynx TMS and freight savings and parcel savings?
Yeah, I mean, one of the nice things about our system is we do measure all of this stuff. So we're able to measure before and after. So we do have what we call a savings measurement that we have. So how much are you paying today compared to how you were doing it before? And we also have a lost savings. The lost savings is going to measure every time you're not doing the optimal move, where the optimal move is defined based on your rules that you've put in place. So that's where we're able to really help a lot of customers not only, do their rate shopping and save money that way, but also make sure that they're staying on the path to savings and that they don't have any leakage happening. And that's where, we have some customers are able to save quite a bit of money. Everybody's a little different, probably 10% upwards of, probably big numbers, 20, 30, even 40%. Don't run into that too much. But there's definitely opportunities out there to save, and it just comes down to the size of the customer and the complexity of their freight. And I think by having all of that data at your fingertips through our TMS and the measurement of the before and after, as well as the measurement of what you're currently doing through the lost savings, that's how everyone's able to really finally get savings that they were promised or that they promised their bosses on a TMS like ours. And that's what we've seen with a lot of customers.
That's great. I know that a lot of our customers also see, pretty good returns on our truckload auction. Can you explain a little bit, how that works and how they're achieving those cost savings?
Well, the spot quoting is always what we find a very manual process that a lot of customers are doing. And that's where we have what we call our auction platform, where the customers can invite the carriers that they want into the platform. And then as their loads are being created, the carriers can then bid on them in real time. And what we see is that it allows the customer to add a lot of carriers. That way they get coverage and capacity. And then from there, they're going to take advantage of backhaul opportunities for carriers. And that's usually where they get a lot of savings opportunity there. We always see a minimum of about 20% on the auction side with spot quotes. It's just kind of a given. And I think it's just because of how easy it is to use and how many carriers you can add into it. So that way you are getting as much competition as you possibly want.
Yes, competition is good, at least for the customer to drive down the cost. So, with escalating inflation and, fuel charges, they want to save wherever they can. Um, as we wrap up, what advice would you give to any shippers that are considering, supply chain technology from the warehouse to shipping it and having it delivered directly to the customer? Dan, can you give us some insights on that?
Yeah, in the warehouse operations, it's that combination of technology. I think an easy way to wrap up for me is kind of use an example of a customer we just finished a project with, and their savings, savings in automation and so forth were way outside what we expected and what we had anticipated when we first uh, justified the investment in the automation project. We worked with them in an engineering design. It was one of these combined technologies where we put a pick module together, integrated to their ERP WMS that did the parcel picking. So in parallel, parcels and cartons are being picked through a voice directed picking process, picked directly to shipping cartons. And those are your repack cartons. Those are going to go all out, predominantly all parcel carriers. There are going to be any case that needs to be repacked with a LTL shipment is going to come out of that area. In another parallel process, the bulk of all their shipments were mixed case pallets. So 70% of the volume out of this distribution center is a pick to pallet type process where they were using fork trucks and an army of fork truck drivers, sometimes 3, 4 of them in the aisle at the same time, getting on and off the fork trucks, picking cases, using a piece of paper and a RF barcode scanner to basically scan, validate. And we put in a combination of what we call RDS batch box, which is AMR based picking with voice, where people work in the pick zones and they're doing it far more efficiently. We more than doubled the pick rates, sometimes getting 300% higher pick rates, where we now have operators that were getting 50, 60 cases sometimes per hour on average, bringing them up to 250 on average across their fleet. In some of their high moving zones, using this technology, we were able to see 300 to 400 case picks per hour, picked, scanned, validated with that combination of AMRs and voice working in what we call meet me mode. So we're moving people very efficiently with no walking and using AMRs to pick up pallets, move the pallets throughout the pick and pack picking process, moving them to wrappers, and it was just a continuous flow. The results were the customer went from a old DC where they ran 2 shifts, predominantly 65, 75 people needed across both shifts to operate. And we took them down to a single shift operation with a 10% growth in that year with 6 less people than what they were using in the day shift, which comes out to about 120% gain in productivity. So needless to say, they've got a really positive cash flow on their system and a fast return on investment, much faster than the 18 months we're projecting, probably well under 9 or 10 months in that automation. So the advice I give people is let's look at the operations. Let's really work together. Let's engineer and design a solution matched to your business and then have the right software, like the RDS Warehouse Execution System, that has all those modules that can pull in multiple different technologies, integrate to your existing business system, and also have more advanced transportation analysis tools integrated with us, such as RateLinx, that not only saves you money in transportation, but closes that loop on perfect order practices and knowing that item got delivered to that customer within the timeline that you expected. And driving that reduced labor, increased productivity, and on-time delivery just drives up that customer satisfaction level, which not only allows you to retain your customers, but gain new ones. And that's the type of efforts and technologies that we bring together in a partnership to the end users.
Thanks, Dan. Shannon, what are your closing thoughts about folks that are, looking to automate some processes and use a TMS system?
Yeah, I think when it comes to the TMS side, we follow a lot of the same kind of principles that Dan was talking about. Take a look at the process, take a look at how you're doing things, what carriers are you using. And now with the TMS, I think it's about kind of changing your thinking a little bit around how you used to do things with respect to setting rates up. What we see a lot of times is that customers have negotiated their rates and worked with the carriers that they're working with because it's easy to do from a manual perspective, or it's easy to do based on the system that they're using that maybe has some limitations. So with a system like ours, that's usually the hardest part. I mean, we had a customer once where when they started with us on the LTL side with their rate agreements, what I saw was they had a handful of discounts set up with the carrier, very simple. And when we put them into our system, we had to talk to them about, hey, you can do this a little more, I would say, complex wise, where you can have a lot more discounts, things like that, because the system's going to do everything. And I asked them, why didn't you guys do this before? And the person said to me, well, I didn't want to load all those discounts in the software that we had because it was very painful to do and very hard. And that's where with our side, with our system and how we do everything, it's so much easier. So that's where some of it is just, open up your thinking a little bit, think a little bit differently. Don't be afraid to push it with the carriers because a system like ours can handle a lot more complexity when it comes to the rating and carriers and things like that. So rather than fitting into a system, what we do is we fit into what they want to do. And again, that's the extensibility that we have, where we're able to quickly do that stuff. That way we fit into the process. So that way when we come into a situation where Dan and his team is implementing and they've got, some type of, rules that we have to put in place for carrier selections or certain carriers that customers want to use, we have no problem fitting into that. Because that's really our philosophy, is we fit into what the customer wants rather than making them fit into what we have. So really that's the hardest part, is getting them to think differently about stuff. But we always start with where they're at, and then from there we kind of walk them down the path and help them expand their thinking a little bit, and let them have confidence that we can do things differently. That's also part of it. We gotta earn some trust and build that trust with the customer, which is what we do.
Well, I think we've given the entire audience a lot of things to think about. I'd like to thank you and Dan for joining us today and sharing your decades of experience.
Thank
So,
you.
you're welcome. I'd like to also thank everyone for taking time out of their day to join us. I'll be sending out a recording of today's webinar by next week. And if you're interested at all in seeing a ShipLynx demo or the RDS Warehouse System Execution System by Numina, you can either visit us at RateLinx.com or NuminaGroup.com. Until next time, I'm Shannon Corrigan, and you guys have a great day.
Fantastic.